12 Days by Russian Wolf 7. Day 10.
I want Granger to open her gift first, Malfoy declared as Harry, Ron, and Hermione sat down.
Hermione gave him a confused look.
Why? I want to examine it, Malfoy replied. For a while there, our gifts were synced up, but I'm not convinced they still aren't. It might be less obvious than matching candles or Christmas crackers, hence the need for examination. I completely missed what you got yesterday, and I'm not going to let another day slip by, not when we're so close to Christmas.
Hermione rolled her eyes and Ron kicked Harry.
If it's that important to you, you're fine. I thought you'd already decided it's a coincidence, Ron said. Hardly, Malfoy scoffed, and then his expression changed to genuine confusion. What would give you that idea?
That you've stopped paying attention to what Hermione is getting, Harry said, shin aching dully. He'd get Ron back for that. The kicking system was to prevent him from embarrassing himself, not for Malfoy's words, which he had no control over. Malfoy smirked.
I was merely distracted by the quality of gifts I was getting. If Granger opens her gift first, no distraction.
Have you got pasties? Ron asked. Hermione hit his arm.
Ron, don't ruin the surprise.
I didn't. I'm just asking a question. Ron replied. Do you? Malfoy snorted.
Of course not.
Then you're not getting the same thing. Hermione swatted him with both hands, smiling and scowling at the same time.
Ronald Weasley, do not ruin Christmas for me.
Harry had to contain to smile and wonder why Ron had kicked him. Yes, the gifts had come from the same store, but it wouldn't be that obvious. Unless the boxes had the name of the jeweler on them. Which they did. Harry no longer felt the urge to smile. This was bad, very bad. How was he supposed to cover this? He shouldn't have used the official box in the first place at all, regardless of Ron's intentions. The shop was expensive, far too expensive for a secret admirer.
It had just seemed so perfect, and he hadn't been able to pass it up, and
oh god, tomorrow's was even more expensive. Merlin, he was so screwed.
Harry, have you got any cinnamon galleons left?
Pansy asked. Harry was startled enough by the use of his first name that it took him a minute to answer. In fact, he had the entire bag, minus one that he had tried very hard to enjoy, but it had burned like an acid pop and tasted like concentrated cinnamon, and he hadn't been able to manage. Nor was he willing to give them away for reasons that weren't sentimental at all. Not for you, he replied. Pansy groaned.
You boys, you never share your candy with me. It's downright rude not to share. What happened to our truce?
Candy wasn't mentioned, Harry replied, scanning the ceiling for owls and looking for an excuse to slip out before post arrived. Sorry, you're on your owl.
Take it up with Blaze, Malfoy said. He's the one not sending you gifts or brewing you homemade candies. Leave off Potter, he's got no reason to share with you.
Was that?
And Malfoy just offended him?
You know, I just remembered. I've got Slughorn's potion simmering, and I need to check on it, Harry said, starting to back out of his seat. Hermione made an exaggerated sad face.
I wanted to show you my earrings.
You can show them to me later, Harry said, standing and looking nervous for the owls. Besides, I saw when Ron bought them.
But you haven't seen them on, she insisted. I haven't worn nice earrings since the Yule Ball. Please, Harry, just this once. Remember, I'm a girl.
Harry looked pained. Hermione, the potion.
If you don't sit back down, I'm going to know you're my admirer, Malfoy said. Why else would you be so eager to leave before the post arrives? You've been eyeing the ceiling since you sat down.
Harry rolled his eyes. Or maybe it's because I have a potion.
Draco does have a point, you know, Pansy said. You're all being awfully suspicious.
Harry groaned. All right, fine. But if my potion is ruined, you're brewing me another. He sat down and busied himself with breakfast. No more looking for owls, just eating his eggs. Hermione, I'm sorry I hurt your feelings. I'm sure you'll look beautiful. And Malfoy, sorry to deflate your ego, but it's really not me.
I don't believe you, Malfoy replied, smirking. But it's only a few days until Christmas, and then I'll know for sure.
Harry let out a huff and glared at him, making eye contact and nearly losing himself in the dancing smoke. And what exactly would you do if it was me?
Ron kicked him again.
Malfoy raised an eyebrow.
You want to know what I'd do if you're my secret admirer? Why, pray tell?
You're the one who's so fixated on the idea. Harry shot back. This is, what, the third or fourth time you've brought it up? If I didn't know better, I think you wanted it to be me. Another harder kick, delivered exactly on top of the other. He'd have a bruise, but he didn't care. His heart was pounding, blood rushing in his ears, all focus concentrated on Malfoy. He was aware everyone was staring at the two of them.
Well, Malfoy said slowly, like I said, given the caliber of my gifts, the thought that went into them, and the level of potential embarrassment, I'd at least want to talk about it. I believe I also said I'd give my admirer a chance, did I not? As uncomfortable as that would be, it's only fair. A talk. A chance. Uncomfortable. A chance. Talking. A chance. What? A date? Coherent enough for a conversation? Uncomfortable, uncomfortable, uncomfortable. Harry shook his head in disbelief. Never thought I'd hear those words coming from your mouth. Good thing it's not me then. I wouldn't want to make the precious Draco Malfoy uncomfortable. Uncomfortable. A chance. A talk. A talk. A chance. Uncomfortable. Anyone would be better than her, Malfoy said, jerking his head towards the second-year Slytherin.
And he's the right gender, Pansy said. Plus, he's your type, don't you think? Dark hair, shorter than you, just slightly muscled, but not too much. Those eyes, all the girls go gaga over.
You're stretching the definition, Malfoy replied haughtily. You've left out clever, funny, sharing my love of potions. Oh, and someone I don't utterly despise. Harry's stomach was twisting and roiling, and he thought he might throw up.
Don't be ridiculous. You don't hate him,
Pansy said.
You haven't since... Ow! Don't kick me!
Harry chanced to look up. Malfoy looked annoyed, and maybe a little embarrassed. Since when, Malfoy? He asked tauntingly. When did I win over the Prince of Slytherin? Malfoy rolled his eyes. Hardly. It was decent of you to return my wand, that's all. And you certainly didn't need to attend my father's trial, yet there you were. I went to as many trials as I could, Harry replied. No need to think you're special. And that matter is why I dislike you, Malfoy retorted. Perhaps despise is too strong a word, but I assure you I feel nothing approaching even neutrality. Good to know the feeling's mutual, Harry said sharply. Truce, Hermione interrupted. We're in a truce. Stop insulting each other. My mistake, I forgot, Malfoy replied completely seriously. Harry, I've secretly been in love with you for years now, and I can't imagine my life without you. You're clever and handsome and... Oh, shove it, Harry snapped. That was worse than being insulted. Much, much worse. If you want a compliment, you're not getting one from me. I'm hurt, Malfoy said, putting a hand over his heart. I bared my soul to you, and you tell me to bugger off. Granger, doesn't that violate the rules of the truce?
You certainly are, Hermione said. Leave Harry alone.
He's the one who's rejecting me, Malfoy insisted. And I'm supposed to leave him alone? I think you've got your priorities backwards.
Post is here,
Pansy said.
Now grow up, both of you, and take your packages.
I don't have a package, Harry muttered. Granger needs to open her earrings before I open anything, Malfoy said. Even if it's from my beloved Harry Potter. Harry kicked out very hard, and Malfoy let out a yelp. Hermione unwrapped the box and let out a small gasp.
You went to Alton Florence? Wow, that's far too much. You didn't need to do that.
He blushed a bright scarlet. It's our first Christmas together, he mumbled. I wanted it to be special.
She kissed his cheek. Just being with you is special.
Oh! Malfoy muttered under his breath. Harry happened to agree. Go on, open it, Ron urged. The gift is better than the box, I promise. She flipped open the box and sighed. Oh, Ron, they're lovely. She quickly took out the studs she had been wearing and replaced them with the new earrings. Harry had to admit they looked wonderful on her. There was a very small diamond with a chain leading down to another pear-shaped diamond. Harry happened to know Ron had gotten the money from George, who Harry had reminded he had given them the startup money, but there was no reason to tell Hermione that. Very pretty, Harry said. A little odd with jeans and a sweatshirt, but still good. She tried and failed to contain a smile. I think they look good with anything, she replied, pulling her hair back to show them off properly. Malfoy observed this with poorly masked surprise. Alton Florians for you, he mused, slowly removing the wrapping paper. And yes, Alton Florins for me. Weasley, you have an accomplice. Pansy looked skeptical.
Even I can't believe that's a coincidence. So who is it, Weasley? Did a Slytherin bribe you to help them shop? Is that how you afforded those errands? Or did you decide to help out a friend? A very close friend? Perhaps your best friend? Once again, not me, Harry said. Though I am wondering what Malfoy would want from a jewelry store. Plenty of things,
Malfoy replied, running his fingers over the velvet box.
I've been known to wear a pendant, if it's not too feminine, as well as plain silver bracelets. It depends on my mood.
If someone knows you that well, they're stalking you.
Pansy said.
The last time you wore a necklace, it was your family's crest, and it was only during the trials, and you kept it under your shirt. Then again, Potter was at your father's trial.
She turned to Harry, eyes glinting.
Potter, did you shock Draco?
No, Harry said. I saw him, but we didn't talk. It wasn't exactly a social occasion.
I don't think it's a stretch that Malfoy would wear jewelry,
Ron said. He's pretty feminine.
I am not!
Malfoy replied, distracted. He looked up from the box, and he looked a little worried.
I hate to say it, but Grindelwald's right. This is too much. I don't even know who it's from.
Pansy crossed her arms and pursed her lips.
Are you seriously upset that you got something from Florence?
I wouldn't use those words,
Malfoy replied. Harry's stomach was sinking. Why hadn't he thought this through? Once Ron had convinced him to go along with it, he'd just kind of gotten swept up in the idea, not realizing there would be repercussions beyond a heart-crushing rejection when Malfoy found out it was him. Now it was obvious. As if 12 days of Christmas wasn't bad enough, this was pathetically, creepily overbearing. Maybe whoever it is just has a lot of money, Harry suggested, so it wouldn't occur to them how expensive it was. That was awful and egotistical, but at least Malfoy didn't know it was him. Aren't all Slytherins filthy rich?
True,
Malfoy said.
But still, I barely recognize the feeling, but I think it's guilt.
Ron was staring at him like he'd grown a second head. Could it be a human after all? Truce, Harry said automatically. He was feeling guilty too, terribly so, and couldn't say anything. It really hadn't occurred to him, which was awful and insensitive given that he'd been shopping with Ron.
Just open it,
Hermione said.
Take the gift and be happy that someone actually cares enough about your cold, heartless soul to spend money on you.
Truce, Harry said again.
I'm going to make a rash declaration,
Malfoy said, and Harry listened very carefully.
I know I said I'd give whoever this is a chance, but I'm going to rephrase. I think I may be in love with this person.
All 5 of them stared at him.
I'm not joking,
he continued.
Nobody's ever been this nice to me before. This stopped being a joke a few days ago, and this gift just solidifies it. Whoever this admirer, I'm clearly more than a passing fancy.
He laughed quietly.
Imagine me in a serious relationship.
There was silence. Harry couldn't think at all. However serious he wasn't serious. That was a given. What was new, though, was this sweet, vulnerable side of Malfoy. This side who had, and Harry found this hard to believe, never had a real relationship.
Just open the box,
Pansy said suddenly, startling everyone.
It could be something you hate. Be sure you like it before you make declarations.
Malfoy nodded. Yeah, okay. He took a deep breath, then laughed derisively. He stopped looking nervous and open and went back to smirking.
I'm being ridiculous. I got distracted by Christmas spirit. Just for making me say things like that, I won't give them the time of day.
You're an amateur prat, Pansy said. Now open the box or I'll do it for you.
He opened the box. Then he swore.
I like it, he said, almost whining. It's perfect.
Harry might have been tearing himself in half.
Do share.
Malfoy took a silver watch out of the box and held it up to be admired. It had a light green face with no numbers or letters, just hands. He put it on and it shrunk to fit his wrist.
Quite lovely, he said, sounding dejected. I guess I am in love. Bound to happen someday. I thought I'd know who it was before I fell for them, but, well...
Ron kicked Harry. Harry wasn't sure why, since he hadn't said anything, and he was pretty sure he looked neutral, if not mildly bored. Was he supposed to say something? Was that it? And what exactly was that something?
Hey, it's me! Let's go have that conversation and that chance and make sure it's uncomfortable.
Right. So what's this about a chance? Ron asked, after a moment of silence. What does your first love deserve?
I suppose that depends on the next few days, Malfoy said, admiring the watch. And on who it is. I wonder if I get something special on Christmas Eve. Weasley, are you doing something special?
Ron blushed. And you don't get to do that, not the person I'm doing it with.
Ron, be quiet,
Hermione warned.
You've already ruined today's gift. Don't ruin tomorrow's as well.
You're also getting something at breakfast, don't worry, Ron said. Christmas Eve morning and Christmas Eve night are completely different.
Oh,
She said with a smile. Okay then. Malfoy looked disgusted. I don't need to hear anything about that, he said. I meant your gift, or something romantic. I'm not saying a word about my gift, Ron said, glancing at Hermione. And of course I'm doing something romantic. Christmas Eve night. But I actually get to see my girlfriend because I know who she is.
I'm curious about this too, Pansy said. What are you going to do? We went through you blowing them off for the first few days, potentially curious after the hair gel, genuinely interested once the potion supply started, and now you're in love. So spill, what's your plans?
Malfoy flushed, and Harry was once again on the edge of his seat. Metaphorically, he couldn't risk someone noticing if he did it literally. I suppose a thank you kiss is in order, Malfoy said, and Harry's heart stopped yet again. Mouth versus cheek depends on who it is. Everything really depends on who it is. Pansy elbowed him with a sly smile.
Your beside is still in there, isn't it?
Malfoy swatted her arm away. Stop using that word! I don't want to talk about it!
Pansy sighed. Do you want me to just ask him?
Malfoy looked at her, horrified. No! Don't you dare! I'll tell Blaze about that time! She bailed.
I was drunk, she interrupted, and he was being an arse.
He's always an arse, Malfoy replied. Anyway, I'll find out on Christmas. Then he looked sort of sad. It won't be him. It doesn't matter.
Then you'll ask him out after Christmas? Pansy said. Like you promised me you would?
Malfoy flinched. This is not a conversation to share with the present company. He swept his hand at Harry, Ron, and Hermione. We'll discuss it later.
You should just be with whoever is sending the gifts, Hermione said, fingering one of her earrings. Nobody else is going to be this romantic, ever. You may be some people's definition of attractive, not mine, but you're an arse. Take what you can get, Harry kicked her. And really, this person sounds pretty wonderful. I'd go for it.
I'm done with this conversation, Malfoy said. End of story from all of you. He glanced at his new watch and smiled slightly. But we're done.
Nobody said anything, Draco,
Pansy said. We're done. Guys, don't start, Ron said as they walked into the common room. If you start, you'll never stop, Hermione continued. Harry felt like he was going to explode. I need to start. No, Ron said. We were both there. We know what happened. We don't need to spend the next 8 hours discussing it. I'm not going to not talk about it, Harry said. I'll make you a deal. Have a conversation with me about one thing that just happened, or we talked at for the next 16 hours. Ron looked pained. He turned to Hermione. Well, he asked. She sighed. I suppose. All right, Harry. What do you want to talk about? Choose carefully. Harry ran through everything. There was Malfoy convinced that he's his admirer, or when he was deciding what to do about it, how he felt about the watch, then being in love with whoever sent it. He decided to leave out the bit about Malfoy feeling guilty about getting a gift from Florence. Harry could deal with that himself later on. And then he chose his words carefully. Malfoy went on and on about thinking I was his admirer, deciding what to do about it, and then declaring he was in love with said admirer. Harry said, turning 3 things into one. If I ask a question about my one thing, does that become the only thing, or can we have a full conversation? Hermione sighed. Harry, that's 3 things. I'm not an idiot. Ask your question and we'll go from there. Did he ever connect being in love with his admirer to me being his admirer? Harry asked. I know I sound like a prepubescent schoolgirl, but everything got hazy and I don't remember. No, Ron said bluntly. He didn't. Want me to bring it up next meal? No, he doesn't, Hermione said. And Harry, that was pathetic enough. You're hereby cut off from any further conversation. If just one question is that bad, enough is enough. I'm sorry, but you've talked about Malfoy so much since the day in Diagon Alley, and I have homework to do. Harry looked at her. Remember when I was there for you 6th year? He asked angrily. I listened to you moping about Ron for the whole year. That included while he was dating Lavender, sitting on the floor, hiding from him together. You were hiding from Ginny, Hermione said. You were just as upset as I was.
Do some homework, okay? If you don't, you'll keep me up with you the night before classes start so I can help you finish the subject and we'll see.
His look turned into a glare. I'm officially mad at you.
I'm sorry, she said again. Really? But I have to do homework. I've been slacking off and I'm falling way behind.
We have a week and a half of vacation left, Harry said. How could you be behind already?
Until lunch, she said. Between lunch and dinner, we'll talk. After dinner, back to homework. Okay?
Okay, Harry said. He sighed. I'm sorry I'm being a brat. Hermione's sorry for only being interested in homework, Ron said. And I'm sorry for being bored of your whining. I'm doing homework too. Harry sighed again. Fine, I will do. So, Malfoy, Ron said as the Slytherin sat down for lunch. You said you were convinced Harry was your secret admirer. You also said you're in love with your admirer. Please tell me that means you're in love with Harry, because that would be hilarious. Harry got up from the table. I'm bloody sick of this, he snapped. I don't care if the truth specified teasing as a form of bullying. I'm not going to be in the middle of it. I'll see you later. Harry, come on, Ron called after him. I was just joking.
Potter, you're only backing up his hypothesis,
Malfoy added.
Storming off just because Weasley made a joke at your expense? Seems like you must be upset about the content, not the joke. I can't think of a reason why you'd be upset if it weren't true.
Maybe because this is the 100th time it's been brought up today, Harry replied. It has nothing to do with the content.
Sit back down, Hermione said. You're just antsy because you've been working on history of magic all morning. Relax and have some lunch.
Harry was having a lot of trouble because he would like to sit down and have lunch. He was very hungry, but he had made a scene. He couldn't decide if it was better to continue the scene and walk out or admit he'd overreacted and sit back down. Either way, he'd made a fool of himself. Harry sat back down, moodily. Sorry, he muttered. History of magic. Just stop making fun of me, okay? Just because I didn't grow up in the wizarding world doesn't mean I'm stupid. That sounded convincing. Sort of. Unless you want me not to help you with your muggle studies, essay Ron. Points hiking, Ron said.
So if it was you, Potter,
Malfoy said, as if nothing happened.
if you were my admirer, and if I was in love with you...
Stop, Harry interrupted. He couldn't take it anymore. That hadn't been a lie. You hate me. You found a new way of rubbing it in my face that doesn't violate the truce. I get it. But just stop.
It'd be good news for you, Malfoy said airily. But fine, your choice.
It wouldn't be good news because I hate you and I'm not your admirer and I don't want to be, and I really don't want that sort of good news from you, Malfoy. Harry snapped. There was a long pause. Of all people, Pansy was the one to break it.
Potter, are you okay?
I'm fine, Harry said, working to calm down. It was getting to him, that was all. The secrecy, the lying, the suspense, the rising hope, the inevitable letdown. He just wanted it to be over. Tomorrow was going to be even worse than today because he had to get the bloody custom engraved, which was idiotic. And Christmas Day, which was supposed to be happy and full of cheer, would be spent miserable and alone. Hermione and Ron would be busy doing things Harry didn't want to think about. Malfoy would be laughing and teasing and torturing. Pansy, who was being oddly nice, would be taking Malfoy's side and laughing right along with him. Goyle never talked. So yes, Christmas would be awful. He'd just stay in bed and do homework all day, catch up to Hermione, maybe even surpass her. Then he'd be in her good graces, and that would be entirely necessary for the depression Harry would be in for the foreseeable future.
Leave him alone, Malfoy said. He's PMSing today, and he's very sensitive.
Truce,
Hermione said.
I'll rephrase, Malfoy replied. Leave him alone. Harry's a great person and deserves his space when he asks for it.
Hermione narrowed her eyes.
Sarcasm is included in the truce.
I'm not being sarcastic,
Malfoy said, and he sounded honest.
Really? Mostly. Potter might not be great, but he's okay sometimes. And I genuinely don't enjoy his tantrums, so please, for my sake, leave him alone.
She considered, then nodded.
Acceptable.
Harry gathered himself through the rest of lunch. He responded only to direct questions, and even then, only barely. The walk back to Gryffindor Tower was quiet, and Harry immediately settled back into homework.
Do you want to talk?
Hermione asked a few minutes later. No, Harry said firmly. No, not at all. I told you I'm done with this. If I could change my mind about the gifts tomorrow and Christmas, I would. But unfortunately, I already gave them to the school owl who hid them. Ron forced it to, in case I changed my mind. Which would have been fine while I was just sending stupid crap to him. But then I had to go and do this, and I'm screwed, and I don't want to talk about it. He took a deep breath. I'm working on history of magic, and that is what I want to focus on.
Okay,
Hermione said quietly.
we're here if you change your mind.
Both of us? Ron asked. Brilliant.